This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
The American private security company Blackwater has triggered a crisis between Washington and Baghdad. The American State Department apologized for the killing for 10 Iraqis by Blackwater, but the incident is still generating controversy. Since the Iraqi government has revoked Blackwater's license to operate in Iraq and plans to bring the private contractors involved in the killings into trial, Iraqi citizens have raised questions about the fact that these security companies were not being held accountable to Iraqi laws. Some Iraqis have become more vocal in their demand that all foreign security companies in Iraq be expelled. We leave you with Suaida Belaoun.
It seems that this private security company has been killing Iraqis as a way to provide security for American officials. Its logo consists of a paw and claws. Perhaps the paw symbolizes protecting the Americans, while the claws symbolize the company's indifference to the Iraqis' feelings.
The killing of some Iraqi citizens in Al-Nusur Square by the American security company is an insult to the Iraqi people.
Although the security company is getting paid by the Iraqi government, it does not seem to care about how many Iraqis it kills, as long as it protects American officials. Thus, the crime of killing Iraqis was in effect paid for by the Iraqi government. The American State Department, the largest client of Blackwater, apologized to Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki for the killing of 10 Iraqis by the private security company, as if the incident was caused by stray bullets unintentionally shot by young men who were showing off their weapons. This, however, did not stop the Iraqi government from revoking Blackwater's license to operate in Iraq, or from declaring its intention to try the private contractors who were involved in the incident. What the Iraqi government seems to ignore is the fact that the American company has immunity from Iraqi laws, something ordinary Iraqis may not know. Blackwater is a private security company that hires unemployed young men. It trains them in a rush so it can fulfill its obligation to the $21 million security contract it had signed with the U.S. administration in 2003. The company was in charge of providing security for Paul Bremer, who was the U.S. civil administrator in Iraq at the time. Currently, the total sum of security contracts that the company has signed with the State Department has reached $750 million. The private security company has the right to use similar weapons used by regular armies, such as helicopters and armored vehicles, which have been used to terrify people in their homes. It seems that this is acceptable to the private company as long as American officials are safe. The same officials who once argued that the bombardment of Iraq was a necessary price to provide security and peace for the Iraqi people.
Joining us from Beirut, Ilyas Hanna, an expert on military and strategic affairs. Mr. Ilyas Hanna, how do these private security companies operate? Are they regulated by any agreements or laws?
بعد تراجع دور الدولة بدأت الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية تتكل على شركات خاصة وهذا أمر يريح الإدارة الأمريكية.
Without a doubt, as the position of the U.S. administration became weak, it started to depend more on private companies. This relieves it from political pressure because the killing of private contractors does not usually generate political pressure from Congress. There are more than 100,000 private contractors in Iraq. Blackwater specializes in protecting high-profile targets, and it has helicopters and armored vehicles for transporting them. In 2000, the U.S. Congress passed a law called MAJA, or Military Extraterritorial Jurisdiction Act, which put these private companies under the jurisdiction of the Justice Department. However, in 2006, a military law was passed putting these private companies under the direct jurisdiction of the American authority. When Bremer was the civil administrator of Iraq, he introduced a law giving immunity to these security companies from Iraqi laws. This is contradictory because the American private companies are not held accountable to Iraqi laws despite the fact that they operate in Iraq. They were placed under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Justice Department, but no laws were made to regulate these companies or hold them accountable.
The observers of Iraqi affairs confirm that the Al-Qaeda terrorist organization has lost all of its main bases in Iraq.
Observers said that this comes as a result of public rejection of Al-Qaeda and the Iraqi people's unity in confronting terror gangs and purging them from the country.
Iraqis condemn the Takfiri ideology, violence, and radicalism, which are manifested in the form of terrorist operations perpetrated under Al-Qaeda's name, which is led by members throughout the country who have settled in Iraq to conduct their criminal acts through booby-trapped cars and explosions on one hand, and assassinations and killings on the other.
They kill humanity, they kill flowers, they kill love, they kill peace. They have no real religion because Islam, which they claim to follow, is a religion of tolerance, love, purity, brotherhood, and great love. There are many teachings of the Prophet that preach tolerance and love. However, Al-Qaeda, this murderous organization, does not belong to Islam. It's shameful to say that they are from Islam. Islam disowns them.
Islam does not permit suicide. It does not allow killing other people. Al-Qaeda has an Israeli ideology. It is not close to Islam. It is far away from Islam. Islam disowns it because Muslims do not do these things. How can Al-Qaeda detonate explosions during Ramadan while everyone is fasting? This is not Islam. This organization or any other like it have absolutely nothing to do with Islam.
Iraqis, with their various religions, sects, and affiliations, reject Al-Qaeda and curse its terrorist methods of killing innocent Iraqis. They reiterate that these type of organizations belong to no religious sect or religion, and that Al-Qaeda is a form of violence that threatens social security and stability.
Al-Qaeda does not represent any religion, sect, or anything else. It only wants sabotage and destruction for the Iraqis and non-Iraqis. So it does not represent any religion or religious sect. Islam is a religion of benevolence for the entire world.
The killing, forced displacement, sabotage, destruction, violence, and brutality which is practiced by Al-Qaeda has no basis in the noble Quran and no basis in the teachings of the honorable Prophet. The generous Prophet, peace be upon him, preached brotherhood, to be close to and to love one another. He said that a Muslim is one who does not harm people through his own actions or his words. Muslims do not feel safe, neither from Al-Qaeda's actions nor from its words.
People do not disagree about the bloodiness and terror of Al-Qaeda. It can be said that day after day, terrorists are failing in Iraq, thanks to the blows that have been made to them by the joint Iraqi and multinational forces, who are eliminating them in Baghdad, Anbar, Salahuddin, and Diyala. These blows will continue until Al-Qaeda is eliminated from the land of the two rivers. Sahar al-Ibrahimi, Al-Iraqiya, Baghdad. An Israeli soldier was killed and a Palestinian resistance fighter was martyred during clashes with the occupation forces in Beit Ain al-Ma refugee camp in Nablus. The martyr belonged to the Abu Ali Mustafa Martyrs Brigades, which are affiliated with the Popular Front. He was killed while the Popular Front resistance fighters and those from the Quds Brigades, affiliated with Islamic Jihad, were confronting the occupation forces' incursion into the camp. camp. The Associated Press reported that an Israeli soldier was using a Palestinian as a human shield in a raid operation of a neighbor's home. At this time, the occupation has imposed a curfew and has banned ambulances and journalists from entering the camp. With us from Nablus, our correspondent, Shireen Abu Akleh. Shireen, although journalists and ambulances are prohibited from entering the camp, what news do you have about what is going on inside?
نعم نحن على أي حال على الشارع الرئيس المحاذي للمخيم هذا الشارع أيضا هو مغلق أمام.
We are on the main street along the side of this camp. This street is also closed to all Palestinian cars, and all of the stores on the street are closed. Israeli military vehicles have been intensely deployed throughout the street and have closed off the area. This morning, tens of military vehicles, estimated to number more than 100 military patrol vehicles, carried out an incursion into the camp and are carrying out wide-scale raid operations in an attempt to find wanted individuals. According to a military source, the Israeli army's specific objective is to reach a Popular Front activist cell. The fallen martyr, Muhammad Rida Khaled, was a member of the Popular Front from the affiliated Abu Ali Mustafa martyr brigades. He was a 17-year-old student. According to the Israeli army, this is a limited operation aimed at finding the wanted individuals. Earlier, we witnessed the Israeli occupation forces raiding some of the homes and carrying out arrest operations. However, as of now, the Israeli army has made no confirmations and has refused to provide any numbers on how many Palestinians have been arrested. It is clear the operation is continuing. The Israeli army is intensely deployed. Ambulances are finding major difficulties in reaching the injured people. It appears that ambulances are now advancing towards one of the positions. We are able to see some of the Palestinian citizens, and there are expected to be some wounded. As of this moment, the number of wounded who have emerged from within the camp is about 6, most of whom were injured by rubber bullets. Some were wounded while the Israeli occupation forces were raiding their homes by throwing explosive bombs inside these houses. We saw at least one person injured in this manner. Now we are seeing that ambulances and Israeli soldiers are gathering nearby. It appears that they are trying to evacuate one of the injured. It appears the Israeli soldiers are attacking this ambulance because it is trying to evacuate the wounded. Ambulances always face these types of difficulties because Israeli soldiers may suspect or fear that some of the wanted individuals may be inside them. Thus, these soldiers often impede the evacuation operations. We learned that the wounded who were taken out of the camp were done so by medics who entered by foot in an attempt to evacuate the wounded. The ambulances have not been able to remove the body of the martyr who remains inside his home. Ambulances were unable to reach him. We were told that some medics have attempted to reach the home on foot. We also received information that the driver of an ambulance was beaten by the occupation forces. The sounds of clashes are heard every now and then. We cannot confirm that gunfire is coming from the Palestinian side, but at least we are witnessing the occupation soldiers as they continue to fire gunshots, sound bombs, and gas canisters in an attempt to keep away all Palestinian citizens and prevent them from violating the curfew. Also, raid operations by the occupation forces and explosions from inside the homes are ongoing. These incursions move from one home to the next by exploding the fronts of these homes. These operations are ongoing until now. The Israeli army refuses to confirm when these operations will end. They said that they will continue until the army achieves its goals. It says that its goal is to find the wanted individuals from the Popular Front, which is active in the Beit Ain al-Ma camp, where the military operations are ongoing almost every night, in terms of incursions into the city of Nablus and specifically the camp.
Thank you, Shireen Abu Akleh, for this information and the images which you relayed to us, which we are seeing live from Nablus at the Ain al-Ma camp. Thank you.
President Shimon Peres delivered a message that's been broadcast on 150 television and radio channels across the world, including Al Jazeera and other Arab TV stations. At his Jerusalem residence, Peres told the Foreign Press Association that the tension between Israel and Syria has subsided.
I do believe that I shall conclude it in a fair way if I shall say that the nervousness in the relations between Syria and ourselves are over. And what yesterday the Prime Minister said was sincere and serious. So I'll go back to the rumors and speculations and so on, when we say clearly that we are ready to negotiate directly with the Syrians.
Prime Minister Ehud Olmert says Israel is interested in holding peace negotiations with Syria without preconditions. Olmert met the press last night for the first time since Syria accused Israeli aircraft of invading its airspace almost 2 weeks ago. The Prime Minister invited only Russian-speaking media to the briefing at his official residence, which was also attended by Israel Beitenu leader Avigdor Lieberman. Olmert said, "I have a lot of respect for the Syrian leader and Syrian policy." And he added that while the Syrians have internal problems, we have no reason to rule out dialogue with them. On the Iranian nuclear threat, Olmert said that President Ahmadinejad is trying to persuade the international community through psychological warfare that it is too late to stop Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. The Prime Minister said, "We are not scared, just concerned."
Meanwhile, North Korea today issued a strong denial that it has secretly helped Syria develop a nuclear program. According to Korean officials, the allegation is a fabrication by the United States. They insisted that Pyongyang has upheld its pledge made last October not to transfer nuclear technology out of their country. This was the first time North Korea has officially commented on the alleged Israeli airstrike on secret targets in Syria. Speculation in the U.S. media indicated that North Korea may be helping Syria with a secret nuclear program, and the alleged Israeli attack could have been linked to such a program. U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice left Washington today en route for Israel, where she will meet with Prime Minister Ehud Olmert and then go on to Ramallah for talks with PA President Mahmoud Abbas. U.S. sources say Rice may present an American draft for a declaration of principles to be presented at the November peace conference in Washington. Earlier this week, Olmert said Israel and the Palestinians are unlikely to arrive at a signed written statement ahead of the conference. State Department spokesman Sean McCormick said Rice wants to see what she can do to move the process forward in an effort to lay the foundations for a successful international meeting.
And joining us now in the studio is Danny Ayalon, former Israeli ambassador in Washington and now co-chairman of the B'Nefesh organization. Ambassador Ayalon, thanks for coming in this evening.
Good to be here.
In recent weeks, it seems like both the Palestinians and the Israeli side have sort of not wanted to build up expectations of something significant happening with the summit in November. How hard a job is Condoleezza Rice going to have in hammering out something on this trip?
Well, it is a difficult job, but I would say unlike many, let's say, run-of-the-mill, if you can say run-of-the-mill of a secretarial visit here, but most visits here are for assessment, for maybe bettering the atmosphere. They're not as concrete as this one is, and basically trying to bring the Palestinian and Israelis together or much closer on a draft of a declaration of principles for November, if really the conference will take place in November. We're not quite sure. There may be a postponement for whatever reasons. So I think this is very important for her to meet with both Prime Minister Olmert and, of course, Mahmoud Abbas. They may or may not bring some kind of a bridging draft, but I would say that this would be the crux of her visit here, is the conference and what would be the basis for the draft, if there is a draft to be achieved.
Mr. Ambassador, you say that it's very important for the U.S. Secretary of State. I think it's even more than that, is it not? And you were very close to her while you were in Washington. She has an awful lot riding on this. This could, if it works, if there is a conference, if there is a signed document, this could be, in fact, the only thing that she can boast of her entire tenure.
Well, to be fair, and it's not only because she's a personal friend, you know, she has been dealt, I mean, all of us have been dealt very, very tough cards. So if you measure this against the problems of international terrorism, of the nuclear ambitions of Tehran, of the intransigence of many major forces in the international arena, including the Russians, it's very tough to deal with everything which we're dealing with, including Iran and Iraq and Lebanon. So I think she's trying her best, and yes, that could be an achievement, and that could be also an opportune time, not just for the US or Israel, but also for the quote-unquote more moderate Arab or Sunni countries, which also have at stake a lot here, and also they would like to really converge on some kind of a process which also may contain Iran as a result.
Palestinians held a funeral service for a 16-year-old boy who was killed by Israeli army gunfire in central Ramallah in the West Bank.
Rami Jabbareen was telling a story about an ambulance that had stopped last night while transporting a wounded person who was hit by the occupation forces' gunfire. Unbeknownst to her, it was her son Muhammad who was inside the ambulance, dying later from his injuries.
I looked at the ambulance and I cried. I said, I hope it's not my son. They told me someone was injured, but they didn't say my son had been martyred. I didn't realize he had been martyred. I started calling out his name, Muhammad. They were carrying him.
Not far from the family's home, this is the scene of the incident at the Ramallah High School for Boys, specifically the 11th grade. Yesterday, this is where Muhammad attended his last class to join 4 other classmates at the school who were killed by occupation gunfire during the past 6 years.
We were sitting here. Then the army came. All of a sudden, the army came and entered. We all ran away. Mohammed the martyr entered here. The soldiers came and started shooting randomly. Mohammed was injured.
Muhammad Ali Jabbareen is orphaned from his father and he has 5 siblings. This sister from Jordan came immediately after hearing the news. One of his brothers and a sister were not able to attend his funeral service because they are currently in Israeli occupation prisons. Today is the 5th day of Ramadan. There were 5 martyrs from the Ramallah High School for Boys. It's as if Rami Jabbareen has a special destiny with the number 5. The Israeli occupation has taken away her son Muhammad, leaving her with only 5 children. From outside the Umari Mosque in Ramallah, Khalid Al-Qasim, Al-Arabiya.
Yemenis mark the holy month of Ramadan by rejoicing and holding celebrations. In addition, they observe the month by decorating the streets and holding prayers and Quranic recitals in local mosques. Ramadan in Yemen is also a time for forgiveness, tolerance, and settling feuds.
As soon as the holy month of Ramadan gets underway in Yemen, many Yemenis modify their daily life in order to accommodate the spirituality, greatness, and holiness of this month. Some Yemenis mark the month by decorating their mosques, homes, streets, and buildings. In addition, they hold daily prayers and religious sermons, as well as devote their attention to worship and recite the Quran.
During the month of Ramadan and after the noon prayers, we visit our relatives and loved ones. At sundown, Yemenis get together for Ramadan iftar. In addition, Ramadan is a time for forgiveness and working out problems between relatives and friends.
وما يميز أشكال التعايش مع هذا الشهر الكريم في اليمن أيضا ونمط الاستعداد.
The average household spending in Yemen also goes up during the holy month of Ramadan. Moreover, Yemeni shops and markets boost their inventory levels and stock up on food items, including scrumptious sweets and desserts. However, many Yemenis suffer from a low purchasing power due to the recent wave of inflation in the country, where the price of essential goods continues to soar.
The supply of essential items is very high during Ramadan, but the consumers' purchasing power is low. Many people do not buy what they need because they frankly cannot afford it.
We suffer from inflation, especially during this holy month. Merchants should be more compassionate and considerate, and they should lower their prices to a reasonable level.
It seems that Yemenis took advantage of the spiritual month and tried to strengthen their relationships, work out their differences, and resolve their disputes. Ramadan is not like any other month, and the Yemenis, like the rest of Muslims, have a unique way of celebrating this month. While some old Yemeni traditions continue to overshadow the holy month of Ramadan, many have disappeared. Hussam Al-Khatibi, Al-Alam TV, Sana'a.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dina Ibrahim, Assistant Professor of Broadcast and Electronic Communication Arts at San Francisco State University. I always include Mosaic World News from the Middle East in my curriculum for a number of reasons. It gives an authentic Arab voice to the conflict in the Middle East. It also acknowledges all the diverse opinions from the Middle East. And quite simply, there is no other show like it anywhere. It's because Link TV is not beholden to anyone. No corporations, no advertisers. It's a brave step for a young channel, but the reward is that we get programs like Mosaic. So Mosaic is now in a funding crisis. We've come to you this past month to ask for your support for this program. I'm happy to say we're halfway to our $200,000 goal. The number is right there on your screen, so call now and make that donation. Or go online at linktv.org and click on the support button. As someone who's studied media representations and misrepresentations of Arabs through the years, I am touched that Mosaic viewers have consistently come through for this program. It gives me hope that Americans are willing to see this conflict from an insider's view, not just from pundits sitting in studios in Atlanta, New York, or Washington. We're halfway there. We just need another $100,000 to guarantee that Mosaic will be here on Link through December. It sounds like a lot, and it is, but there is power in numbers. Give whatever you can, and together we can keep Mosaic alive. So call the number on your screen. Anything from $50 to $500 will help keep Mosaic on the air. If you support Mosaic, I know that you're someone who wants more than the oversimplification that pundits on Fox or CNN put out. This is what really creates change. I want to thank those of you who've made that call already, but we still have a long way to go. The number's right there on your screen. Please call now and make that donation. Or go online at linktv.org and click on the support button. Please give whatever you can to keep Mosaic on the air. Thank you.
Mosaic needs your support. Help us reach our goal to raise $200,000 by the end of the year to keep Mosaic on the air. Pledge your gift today at 1-866-485-8848 or linktv.org. Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.